Okay, so and it appears it's typing everything that I say along the bottom, which is kind of weird. Yep. And I'll tell you one thing, I've got several videos embedded in these slides. I did a lot of videos. My son was here for 4 or 5 days. He actually ran my iPhone, took videos. I've embedded them. So when we get to certain subjects, I'm going to have videos. But we have a problem with the sound on the video. So I'm going to talk over the videos just like you're hearing me right now, and it won't make any difference. I think everyone can hear the video. So without saying any more, let's move along. We're going to talk first really quickly about basics. And by basics, I mean camera basics. How many of you, raise your hands? I don't know. I assume everybody here has a digital camera, correct? Jenny, does that sound right?
Yes, that's probably true.
Okay. Canon, Sony, Nikon, Hasselblad, if you're rich. There's a lot of good cameras out there, and they all basically do the same thing. Some of them shoot 50 and upwards pixels per image. I don't want that personally. I don't need it. I'm not wallpapering my house with images. My camera shoots, I think, 24 megapixels, and that's more than enough for me. I can do a 30 by 40 canvas or anything else out of it. So that doesn't really matter too much. The three shutter basics that I'm going to talk about is shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. Okay, let's talk about shutter speed. I need a volunteer to tell me what shutter speed. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This thing's going off on its own. I need a volunteer to tell me what shutter speed is. Time's
Just
up.
means the time that expose the sensor.
What does it, Neil? Say it again.
It's a time to which the sensor is exposed to light. Very brief, usually.
That's exactly right. When your shutter opens, and that's supposed to be a shutter in the diagram, it opens for exactly how long you tell it to open. It's the length of time a camera sensor is exposed to light when taking. This thing's just jumping on its own. So I may be hitting my back button a lot. I think Jenny's doing it. But anyhow, so yeah, that's what shutter speed is. Is it important? Well, yeah, it is, right?
Yeah.
Why is it important?
Depending on the lighting you need for the subject.
Exactly. Yeah, time of day makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yes.
The lower the light, the longer you want your shutter open. But what's the downside to that?
If you're not
The pixelization.
What is it again?
I'm sorry, the pixelization.
I'm not picking you up. Who's that?
The pixelization, more.
Pixelization.
More
Not so much. Actually, your ISO is gonna determine that. But with your shutter speed, if it's too slow, if it's open too long, something moves.
Yeah,
something moves.
Okay.
You got a blur.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to shoot with a shutter speed any slower than 60, and that's a 60th of a second, unless I'm on a tripod, and then you can keep that shutter open for 10 minutes if you want to. It doesn't matter. And maybe you're doing that if you're shooting the sky at night and things like that. I really don't have any use for that. I don't shoot anything on a tripod when I'm shooting people because I'm moving too fast. So I need the camera in my hand and I move around and do it that way. So the second thing is aperture. Son of a gun. Okay, who can tell me what aperture is?
It's the
opening.
Stanley?
It's the opening of the diaphragm.
It is the opening. The shutter speed is how long it stays open. The aperture is how big is it? Yeah. How wide is it when it's open? And the wider it is, the more what?
The more light comes in.
The more light coming in.
Yeah.
Yes. What's the downside to a wide aperture?
Shallow depth field.
Exactly. Neil, huh? Need you over here with me, helping me out. Depth of field. And you know, depth of field is if you're shooting with a camera that's got a 1.2 aperture, that sucker is wide open.
Open.
And sometimes you could get a close shot and have the nose in focus and the ear out of focus if you look at your image up really close.
Too close,
So
depending on what
aperture is
lens.
important. But you know
Yeah.
what aperture gives us in the background? What is that?
Bokeh.
Wide.
The bokeh. Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
blur that everybody likes in the background.
Amen.
So aperture is set in terms of f-stops. And they kind of go like this. 1.4 being the widest open. As you would think the widest would be the biggest number, but it's backwards with aperture. The higher the number, the more closed down it is. If you're shooting a subject on the beach and you're on Jiggle Beach, you want St. Simon's in the background behind you, you're going to have to crank that aperture down to about 32 maybe.
32. Yeah.
And then you run, of course, into other problems when you do that. And what would those problems be?
The focus.
Yeah, you got problems because, well, because again, it's so closed down that you're not getting much light through it, right? And so you've got to make up for that using either your ISO or your shutter speed. So what's the difference between f2.8 and f16? Anybody?
2/8 the aperture is almost closed down and
Open. Isn't
I'm
it?
sorry. Yeah, the other way around. Yeah.
That's right. That's
16
right.
Closed down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoever did this doesn't make sense, but they did it. 2.8 is almost wide open, and f16 is pretty well closed down for an aperture. So here's just an example of aperture f5 on the left, 2.8 in the middle, 1.8 on the right. 1.8 is going to give you the most bokeh, but you notice not a whole lot on that shot is in focus. It seems like those stems, even the flowers, are a little out of focus. Whereas you look at the flowers on the left, f5 is a good shot. I think f5 might have been the way to go because you get these two flowers in perfect focus. Everything else is blurrier and blurrier as it goes backwards, and it's a great shot. So that's just an example of what that does to you. Okay, let's talk about bokeh. I've got a little bokeh in this shot. This was shot as you go down 17 before you go over the bridge, you pull over to the right. And I had this young lady. I wanted her to be the center of attention. And there's only two ways to get your subject to be the center of attention. Number one, well, actually, there's three. Number one, everything's darker. Number two, the subject is brighter. Or number three, everything else is in a blur. Your focus has to go to her. And it does, right?
Mhm.
She never got married. Okay. Bokeh is an optical phenomenon that makes bright out of focus elements aesthetically pleasing. Use a fast lens at its wider aperture, turns a busy background into a blurred, homogenic canvas where light appears as soft shapes. And it's really cool. You're going to see a lot of my shots coming up that are, which aperture is wider? Here we go. Jenny, this one's for you.
The
2.8
is wider.
You got it. You got it. Okay. Lenses. Recommendations for lenses. Don't skimp. Get the best lens you can. Sony, Canon, Nikon, they all make good and excellent lenses. And their good lenses are good and the excellent lenses are excellent. And it's all about the glass that they use. Okay. So I want good glass and I want a wide aperture. So these are my two favorite lenses. I'll go back. I'll talk about them later. But this is the Canon 7200. And when I hit Driftwood Beach, this is what I use 80% of the time, unless I have a larger group and I have to stay in close. I don't want to be 50 feet back on the beach to take a shot. So this and my 2470 are my two favorite lenses. Now they make other great lenses. I think most of these manufacturers make a 50 lens that they call a portraiture lens, and I think it'll crank down to 1.8, but it's an awesome lens. Okay, ISO. This is the one that's tricky. We don't really understand what it is. What can anybody tell me about ISO? Ginny, I'll let you pick on somebody here. I can't see anybody.
How about Carol Ann? No?
I shoot automatic all the time, so don't ask me.
Oh, do you really?
Okay.
Okay, shame
I
on
got
you.
you.
No,
I got you.
yeah, no worries.
ISO is typically referring to the sensitivity of your sensor. So the higher your ISO, you start introducing more noise, but you can pick up more light and vice versa.
Absolutely correct. Thank you so much. This is a technical definition, but it's saying the same thing that you're saying. If I could shoot on 100 ISO every time I shoot, I'd be a happy photographer. But a lot of times you'll be shooting maybe on the beach and it's getting darker. What do? The first thing I do is jack up my ISO. Um, but if you jack it up too much, it's going to show in your images, and people are going to say, good Lord, I'm not buying that one. It's all pixelated. It looks nasty, and you don't want that. But we have to live with ISO. When you're shooting weddings, when you go inside a chapel or a church, and I've been inside a lot of them, like Christchurch, no flash allowed. And then as the wedding progresses, all the guests are firing off flashes, and I'm not. But it's something I have to live with because the Nazi lady that was in charge of the church told me not to do it. So after that, I just didn't ask. I set up. I'll put a couple of off-camera lights in the back corners, and they light up everything. And what? They go off for a thousandth of a second? I don't know. But it's certainly not enough to distract the bride and groom. I know that for sure. Okay, now where this stuff is located on your camera, I don't know. But it would be in your best interest to learn to start shooting using these settings. Now you can shoot, if you look over on the left here, you'll see a little dial. One of those settings is M for manual. If you're feeling really froggy and you're out there just fooling around, do some shots in manual. Manual means you're setting the aperture, the ISO, and the shutter speed. Now, if you go to AV, which is aperture priority, which I confess, I almost always shoot on when I'm outdoors because I want to know how blurry my background's going to be. And then everything else gets adjusted accordingly. So, learn about all these settings. Good Lord, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there's that green one that somebody here loves called automatic. And, it does a decent job because that's what it's paid to do. Okay, let's talk about you get a phone call, a friend, a neighbor, a relative. They want you to do a photo shoot of, let's say it's a her. She wants you to do a photo shoot. Now it's time to start thinking. When does the thinking start? Anybody?
As soon as
Well,
you find out you're going to shoot.
yeah, that's exactly right, Neil. It starts when you're on the phone. Okay. First of all, when do you want to shoot? Where do you want to shoot? If and a lot of times I get calls from people that are coming here for a week, 2 weeks, 3 or 4 days, and they want family photography. I almost always drag them to Jekyll Island because Jekyll Island is awesome. The posing possibilities on Jekyll is what I love. I don't love the sun over there. I don't love the sand under my feet. I just love the posing possibilities, all those down trees and everything else. I could do so much with families and couples and individuals over there. It's just wonderful. So yeah, you're thinking about all that right to start. And then as you move into it, now it's the day. And you have to be on Driftwood Beach and you have to be there at 5 p.m. So you'll have enough light to do a 1 hour shoot. And You're getting your gear out of your car. Uh-oh, wait a minute, back up. I'll tell you what I did this morning. I belong to a network group. It was my time to speak. I figured I'd take some portraits of some of the members of the group. I got there, I opened my trunk, and my camera wasn't in there. And that's horrible, okay? So I winged my way through my session, but that's okay. It was only a 10-minute session. But, okay, before you even leave, you've got to decide what equipment do you use. And you're going to see my equipment in just a little bit, but of course I've got my camera, a backup camera. I've got at least 2 lenses. I keep a third one in the car. I've got a 6-foot, what I call a portable cloud. It's translucent. It lets light through, but if you put it between your subject and the sun, it's like your subject is in the shade. And then I'll light my subject accordingly and end up with a great picture. So you got to decide on all your equipment before you get in the car. And once you get to the location, there's a lot of other things to think about. And that would be, where are you going to pose them? How many people have you got? They brought somebody else that you didn't know about. How many different families are with you? I mean, the biggest group I've shot on Jekyll Island is 102 people. And that was a long shoot. But most of your shots are groups between 4 and 15. And, you know, you want to have it in your head. How do you pose 4 people? Well, if you're new at it, Google it. How do you pose 2 parents and children? That kind of thing. Get some good ideas. I like to pose them in triangles. I like to do different kind of stuff. I just don't want all 5 heads straight across, you know. You might get a few of those shots. I'll typically knock out 80 shots in an hour on Driftwood Beach. So there's so much to think about. Did you ever take a picture and look at it later and say, oh, hell, there's a tree limb coming out of that guy's head? Well, you're screwed if you don't know how to Photoshop. If you do, you can take the tree limb out of there. But why bother? See it when you're taking a shot and avoid it. Move over a little bit. Okay, on the spot thing, here we go. Gear, location, lighting, clothing. And that's another thing. You know, I've seen people, a group of people show up. One's got Madras, one's got stripes, one's got plaids, one's got pink shirt. And it's terrible. The best setup I can do is not going to look that good, but that's what happens. And I kind of casually, when I first talk of them, if you need suggestions about clothing, please let me know. Oh, no, we don't care about that. But a lot of them will say, yeah, what do you think? And typically I go, boom, white. Women in white dresses, guys with white shirts and khaki pants, or any solid color is okay. But they look great when you get the shot. So clothing's important. Another consideration. Props. I don't like props, but I will use props if, let's say, it's an engagement or a high school senior, and you know she wants a picture of her little thing dangling in front of her face. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm not a prop person. Hair and makeup. Ah, that's up to them primarily. But if I'm doing a model shoot, a decision has to be made about hair and makeup. You know, does she want me to have a hair and makeup person at the studio? Does she want to get that done ahead of time? If she forgets or doesn't do it, is she going to be disappointed with her shoot? Posing, that's always a consideration, but that's an on-the-spot consideration. And then there's distractions. You go to Driftwood Beach, you're going to have people in your shots behind you. It's unavoidable. I mean, if you go there at sunrise, they start piling in. But anyhow, I can tackle that in Photoshop. But I tell people, look, until you tell me what you want to order, I'm not going to remove people. You know, I'll adjust all the images for contrast and brightness and the darks and the lights and the saturation. But I'm not removing people until you tell me you want that image. Okay, studio lighting. Here we go. What you see here for my lighting is a 3-light setup. The light in the back, that long skinny one, is a skim light. It puts a skim from behind down the side of the face, the arm, the shirt, the dress, whatever it is. It adds another dimension. That's my main light on the left, and that's my secondary on the right. These are Alien B lights that I use all the time, and I've had them for 15 years. You set the intensity on the actual Alien B. You don't do it from your camera, although I know there are some expensive setups where you can do the settings on your camera. But I'm standing right there. I don't really care. If I want something more dramatic, I'll use a skim light. That left light, I'll turn that on to maybe F9, and I'll lower the light on the right. And sometimes I'll even turn off the light on the right. You'll see some images. You'll know when you see them that I didn't have my right light on at all. So Rembrandt lighting, using just one light. Rembrandt lighting, I'm going to explain later on. So yeah, I raise them up. I lower them for kids. I did some 3 little children last week. I did a baby last week. So I'm always up and down with my lights. If I've got a model standing, sitting, and then on the floor, I'm going to keep moving those lights around, all 3 of them. So if I'm using my the light I use for outdoors, I use just one off-camera light at a 45-degree angle, and you'll see that. Here's a pocket wizard, is attached to, it's plugged into my Alien B. I've got it set on send mode, transmit, and it transmits a message to another pocket wizard, which is attached to the hot shoe of my camera. I put that on receive mode. It makes sure that both of the pocket wizards are set on the same zone and channel. So when I push that button or when I fire my camera, those lights are all going to fire. The pocket wizard is on one light, but when one light fires with an Alien B, the light sets off the other lights. So you don't need 3 pocket wizards on your lights. You only need one because they're all light sensitive. Whew, I kept up with him. Okay, studio lighting. Types of lighting patterns. Okay, first of all, we got flat lighting, and I think you know what that is. 3-dimensional lighting, Rembrandt lighting, mood lighting, and of course, the famous skin light. And let's talk about flat lighting. That's a flat lit shot. That's a young lady from Waycross who's a realtor. So I wanted to make her professional. I didn't need for her to look sexy. I didn't need for her to look dreamy or anything else. I just needed for her to look like a professional. I want people to see that picture and say, oh yeah, she knows her business. She knows what she's doing. So that's flat lighting. Both of my lights are set at the exact same power. But you notice I'm using a skim light on her also. It's skimming down her hair on the right side of the image here. It's also going down the side of her arm. It adds another dimension to your image. Flat lighting, again, flat lighting, flat lighting. This is a model. I'm just using 2 lights in the front, set it the same, and I've got the skim light hitting the side of her hair on the other side. All these things I've run through Photoshop. Okay, 3D lighting. Here we go. This is also called Rembrandt lighting. No, Mozart didn't paint. It's got a triangle on one side of the face. The other side is pretty much fully lit. And that term comes from Rembrandt. 3D lighting. Here's another Rembrandt shot where I'm using the light on my right as my main light, and I've got the power on my left light turned all the way down. No skim light. This is a beach shot, and I'm using the sun as my skim light. Why not? People say, you know, don't shoot into the sun. Oh, I do it all the time. But I've also got my off-camera light on a tripod to the left of your screen, lighting up her face. And that's why I've got good lighting on her face, and I've got a really nice skim light on the shot. Okay, studio lighting. Yes, I drew this. Thank you. Rembrandt lighting. Here we go. That's a Rembrandt picture. And you can see how he does it. Now, I don't know if he puts his subject next to a window or he's got, 500 candles burning. I have no idea, but that's where the term Rembrandt lighting came from. There's another one. There's another one. And now this is different because here I've moved my main light and I put it off on the left at 270 degrees from my subject, due west, because I like to experiment. I want to do something that comes out different. So you can see what happens in a case like that. Now I added the buka bubbles. That's not part of the shot. That wasn't my light doing that. Uh, but I've got no light coming straight at her. I've got a light to the left that's lighting the front of her, and I've got a skim light that's lighting the back of her hair, her neck, her back, and the back of her arm. And you can see it's just cool like that when you do that kind of stuff. Now I could have done it without the skim light. It would have been even maybe moodier. I don't know. And what I suggest is if you're ever doing this kind of thing, shoot it every different way you can. See what you like the best. There's the old skim light. There's a skim light shot. Everything else is kind of flat, but I wanted to put an emphasis on her back. Here's a skim light shot, and you know where the skim's coming from. It's coming from the right. It's lighting up her hair. I've got it pulled a little forward where it's actually lighting up her hair on the I don't know if I can draw on this. No, I can't. And I'm sorry, it was lighting up the left side of her hair too. There's another use of a skim light. So skim lights are cool. Outdoor lighting. Okay, here we go. What do you use for outdoor lighting? All right, let's see. Jackie, Jacqueline Law, what do you use for outdoor lighting? You're on mute. You're on mute, Jackie. But you, Neil, you're on mute.
I mostly go with natural light. I do occasionally use fill flash for certain things.
Okay. With an on-camera flash?
Usually, yes.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Man, that's what the sun is there for. The sun is the harshest light there is. You would think the closer you get to your subject with light, the harsher it would be, but it's just the opposite. There's nothing harsher than the sun. When the sun's bright and you leave a shadow on the ground, look at that shadow. I mean, you could draw a pencil line on the edges of that shadow. But the closer you come in, and of course you've got to lower your light, but the closer you come into a subject, the softer your lighting is going to be. So outdoor lighting, okay. Flash in a hot shoe, nothing wrong with it. Flash in a hot shoe is a good thing, especially if you don't have any other kind of equipment. Um, I used to shoot with it all the time, but you know you could do things with it. And again, I'm talking about if you're shooting people, maybe even if you're shooting a flower. If you get a bounce board, just a piece of white styrofoam, and put it on the left side of that flower, and turn your flash to the left so it bounces off that styrofoam and hits your flower, you're going to get a totally different lighting pattern. It's interesting. It's something you should try. So nothing wrong with hot shoe. When I'm shooting weddings, when I'm shooting people, I'll look for a wall to bounce off. I'll look for a ceiling to bounce off. Uh, I'll have the best man open his coat up, and I'll bounce one off his white shirt just to get a good shot of the bride and groom. So bounce flash is a good thing. Pop-up flash. Oh boy, not my favorite thing. If you have a pop-up flash, sell it. Uh, no, the reason pop-up flash is sometimes you're going to get red eye, and red eye is not good. It's because the light from your flash is going straight at your subject eyes. It's reflecting back at you, and they're going to look like the devil. Natural light is awesome, and you can experiment with natural light. Put it in the shade. Use direct sunlight. Be careful shooting people when you've got the sun to your back because it's in their eyes. Reflector's great, and I talked about using just a piece of board, but I've actually got some reflectors that pop out. Um, the cover comes off. You can invert it. You actually end up with a silver, a gold, a black, and a white reflector. Um, Black would give you detracting light, and of course the white, silver, gold will give you added. Hell, you know what I mean. Okay, off-camera flash. That's the best for me. Of course, when I walk on the beach, I want to be the guy with the best equipment. I see professional photographers out there shooting with a pop-up flash, and I just shake my head. Maybe they're shooting for free. I don't know, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use an off-camera flash. And typically, from me to the body, say that's 0 degrees, I'm going to put that flash at somewhere between 30 and 50 degrees, either to the left or to the right. And I've got a subject that's turned, maybe sitting on a log sideways. If their feet are on the left and their head's on the right, my flash is going to be on the left, because most importantly, I have got to light that face. So these are the different kinds of flash. And of course, finally, there's called the nothing, no flash. And you're going to get what you get out of it. And, you know, if you're shooting birds and things like that, it's probably awesome for that. I'm not putting it down. Okay, here's me. Intentionally, I have a pillow tucked under my shirt. That's not fat that you see there. And I'm going to talk about the lighting setup that I use. Okay, this is my tripod. I like this tripod. It's lightweight, it's aluminum, it's adjustable, and it does everything I want it to do. If anything, it's a little too light, and I have to sandbag it. They've got photographer sandbags with clips on them you can put around the bottom of it. This beautiful thing is called a flash point. It's put out by a company called Adorama. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. Maybe even some of you have bought photography gear. They're in New York City. They carry everything. But this is their own brand of a flash. And to me, it's incredible because I've used a lot of other stuff. I've dragged batteries around with me and run a cord from the light to the battery. That's a pain in the neck. I also tilt the light down, as you see, because I want it to replicate what the sun does. So if I want the nose casting a shadow, I don't want it casting it straight across. I want to cast it across and down. So I take the protective lid off, and now I've got this lovely thing, which is called a Parapop, Parapop. And as you can see, it all clicks into place and comes together, and it fits right into the 3 slots on my flash point. Come on, Mike, you can do this. And there it is. I'm ready to go. I throw that thing over my shoulder and I'm off to the beach. That back part of it is actually a battery. It's unbelievable. I've got 2 of them. I always keep one charged. 300 full power flashes, and that light has the power of, I think it's 3 or 4 normal flashes that you'd put on top of your camera. I can overpower the sun with that when I'm taking shots. Now, what I've got there that actually comes with it, if you order the kit, it sends a signal to the light, and I can adjust the intensity of my light from the top of my camera. It's working. I can change the power of the light using that on my hot shoe. And that's the whole setup. Any questions about that, the flash point or anything like that? We're moving on. Okay, now I'm using that outdoor flash now. I've got Summer. She's one of my favorite subjects. I've got a stray cat. The elderly woman behind me died last year. She had upwards of 30 cats. They caught all but 10 who got away, and I don't know where all of them are, but I feed 6 of them twice a day. They hang around my house, and that's one of them. Cute little thing. Anyhow, this is a shot I'm doing with a smoke bomb, and smoke bombs are fun. If you haven't used them, they're pretty cheap. You can buy them online, and they come in different colors, and you can have a lot of fun with them. So here's a shot with a smoke bomb. Now that's my son. I'm trying to get him squared away. There he goes. He shooed the cat off. That's Summer. She's always ready. I'm not really doing a lot of posing with Summer. I'm more interested in the smoke bomb. And as you can see, in a minute, my son is going to fog her with smoke. That's beautiful smoke, but he's in the wrong place with it. I'm trying to direct him. Now it's looking good. What you don't want to do normally is put the smoke in front of your model. Here he's handing it to her. She's going to come around front with it, and see you later. These are not good shots. You got to catch her as she just comes around with it, and it'll look okay. But that's the infamous smoke bomb. And here's a shot that came out of that, which is nice. Smoke bombs are fun. Now, here's another one. This smoke bomb actually exploded in Summer's hand. It's a different color, and I wanted you to see this because she's as cool as a cucumber. Mike gets it going, then he's going to hand it to Summer, and here it goes. Boom. You see the flames? Anyhow, she's a trooper. She went right back to work with it. And watch out for smoke bombs. You know, you can hold them right in your hand while you're using them, but as soon as they go out, they get hotter than heck. You got to throw them when they go out. So that's your smoke bomb shot. Here's a shot we got out of that smoke bomb. Interesting. I just thought I'd throw that in. All right, now we're going to talk about male versus female portraiture. You know, what makes women so different, so great? And what do you want to capture in photography with women? Well, obviously, it's going to depend on what your shoot is for. You know, if you got a realtor versus you've got a model versus you've got a pregnant woman in your studio, you got to think about all this ahead of time and decide what you're going to do about it. Okay, sensuality in a woman a lot of times is something you want to bring out. Sensitivity. These are qualities a woman has that I don't, and probably most men don't. Vulnerability, that touch of innocence, and of course mystery. These are all great things. Okay, so does this bring out any of those? I think it does. Um, Touch of innocence, maybe a little bit of mystery. Men, okay, that's a whole different ball game. Masculinity, strength, authority, power. Okay, that's what this guy wanted. He owns his own business, a security agency. Used to work at Fletzy, and he wanted headshots. And you've seen, probably not knowing, I've got headshots on um, billboards, business cards, handouts, flyers, obviously social media. Uh, Images sell. Images draw people. Okay. If you're 60 years old, don't use a picture you had when you were 30 years old. Okay. I'll make you look good, but I won't make you look 30 years old. So be careful about that kind of stuff. Okay. Creating mood and emotion. How do we do that? Well, we've got to set the environment to do that. We've got to decide on coloring. And I do also mean about coloring of a dress, the coloring of the background, but I also overlay um, hints of coloring on top of my images to bring them together. Body language, big thing. Facial expressions or visual emotions, connection to the viewer, end goal. What are you trying to get out of this thing? And you can't expect your subject to know how to pose. Remember that. You're the expert. You got to know how to pose them. And I do it all the time. And I don't care if it's a bride and groom or a pregnant mom. Of course, children a little hard to pose. I kind of leave that to the mom, but I tell them what I'm looking for. And there's a shot. It's a basic shot. Now I photoshopped it over here. But regardless, it doesn't create any mood at all for me. It's just a face on shot. And that's what you're going to get if you don't direct your shoot. Posing the female. Okay, what's the purpose? There's all sorts of purposes here. Business, maternity, modeling, high school seniors, engagement, bridal, some kind of wall portrait. Okay, there's a business shot. We saw that earlier. All right, here's a maternity shot. Now, she doesn't have anything on her top. That's the shot she wanted. And who am I to say she can't have it? I don't care. I just got to make it the best shot there possibly is. But I did have her arch her back. I wanted more stomach because when you're on your back, your stomach's going to flatten out. I had her bring her legs up, get on her toes. I wanted to see that flexed calf muscle like that. You can't really see it, but I laid her hair out around her head. These are all considerations. I did take a second shot from higher up. You can see the hair better, but all things to consider and all based on what's the purpose of your shoot. Well, this is just a wedding shot, so What do you want to have here? You want emotion, you want love, you want happiness. This is part of an engagement shoot. I just told them to walk on the beach, talk to each other, have fun, and I start shooting away. This is a bridal shoot. Now she looks really happy. That's the one that didn't get married. And here's a model shoot. Jewelry, the dress, everything. And we do it smiling, we do it not smiling. We're going to talk about the mouth later. And here we go with one of Mike's videos. All right, we're rolling here. In my studio, I know it's a mess, but in my studio, I'm using my 7200, but I can get way back and get a full head to toe shot with that lens. Sometimes I'll use the smaller lens if I want to get in close and shoot down on somebody. You can see my lights going off based on my camera being triggered, and that's about it. But I use two lenses. I talked about them before, outdoor mostly, the 7200 and 2470. Every manufacturer has those. They're great lenses. Make sure you get good ones. All right, posing the female, make it interesting. We're going to talk about the C pose, the use of triangles, the S pose, posing hands and arm, and of course, lips and eyes. All are considerations and when you're taking every single shot. Okay, let's throw this one. We're going to start off with a business pose. So she's not exactly wearing a business outfit, but I handed her a folder. A lot of times realtors will have a brochure of their own, or somebody in business has a brochure of their own. Want to look professional. So I just stood her like that. I angled her. I'm shooting up because shooting up means I'm down low and I'm shooting up at her. It makes her look more powerful. So we want her to look powerful. We want her to look like a realtor. Now we're going to talk about right after this. We're going to talk about, and let me move this over. We want to talk about a couple things. First, we're going to talk about the C pose. I always separate the legs. You'll notice I've got her leaning forward. A C pose isn't a perfect C, it's a modified C. And what you're going to see is her hunched forward, which is not a bad thing. There it is. Does it look natural? Does it look normal? Sure it does. And you'd never want to pose a guy like that. They would just think he was a slob. And then I put her up straight. I get the same shot, and just so you can see the difference. Straight up shot, and it's not a bad shot. And then you got this one. Okay, another thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna put her on the ground, and we're gonna see this shot, which is use of triangles. But a couple things I'll mention about this shot without actually showing you the video is look at her body and look for triangles. Top of her head to her hand to her butt makes a triangle. Her neck to her hand to her butt makes a triangle. Just to mention it, her breast helped make a triangle. Her whole body, head to foot to hand, is a triangle. Both legs are in triangles. Triangles will sell images. You don't if you look at pictures, and it doesn't have to be people, it could be cereal boxes. Look for triangles. You'll see cereal boxes stacked 5 at the bottom, then 4, 3, 2, up to 1, like a pyramid. Triangles sell. They've studied it, and triangles sell. So we've talked about the C pose. This is not my shot. I could get the shot if I had the girl with the hair, the clothing, the backdrop I can find digitally. And she's got a furry seat to sit on. It's an awesome shot, but it's an example of the C pose. And there's Summer in her C pose. And I think we've seen, we're going to move into triangles now. So don't listen. All right. That's my dress. I don't wear it that often. At summer, she looks good in it. I have a lot of female clothing, and I will put them in it depending on what it is: a sweater, a dress, a jacket. So I've shot Summer so many times. It's so she does. I always ask, "Is it okay if I touch your hair? Is it okay if I touch your shoulder?" Uh, Her mom is sitting on the couch. Okay, so you know I don't want anything to even look inappropriate. So I've got her again in that modified C pose. And let's move it along and see where we go from it. Okay, that's all we're doing here. And we're supposed to be talking about triangles. Here's that shot in a different angle, and it's cool. Okay, now we're going to talk about the triangles. Standing. Go. You see, I'm directing her. I'm saying drop one knee, throw it in front of the other leg, push your hip out, put your right hand on your hip, and I don't really like what she's doing with her left hand, just dangling it. So I'm gonna have her. I'm gonna have her move her left hand just like that. This is a great shot for a model. It's nothing you want for a realtor or a business professional or anything like that. Now, triangles, floor, seated, standing. There's our floor shot, and I've explained all the different triangles. You can count them. Here's another shot done on Driftwood Beach. Triangles everywhere. I always have one leg higher than the other, and even the bottom leg, I want some kind of break in it. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I don't want it straight, flat along that log. Triangles. This is a high school senior shoot. Ava Parker. If you've seen the Parker stores everywhere around this place, her dad owns them. But she's a real sweetie. She's going to college in Florida now. But look, it looks like I'm taking a shot at her and she doesn't know it. Like I snuck up on her or something. But it's a great. I like it. I think it's a great shot. Her mom loved it, and she's just fixing her hair. This girl lit up a cigarette in my studio. Oh well. Um, I thought it was a great shot though, so I got it. But look for triangles. Triangles. Her arm makes a triangle. She's got her head tilted back, so there's a little bit of triangulation going there. She's got one knee up against the seat she's sitting on, so we've got another triangle there. Triangles, triangles. We love triangles. Okay, now I want to talk about a few things. One is jewelry. I like big jewelry, but it depends again on what you're shooting. But always think about jewelry. If you're shooting an individual and it's a female, ask them if they want jewelry, bring it. Bring a lot of jewelry because I pick out what I want her to wear. So let's just take a quick look at this shot. Okay, just before we get started, talk about jewelry. I like necklaces uh, and I like earrings. I like stuff around the wrists because if I bring a wrist and a hand up into the image, it just looks great to have all sorts of neat jewelry. As long as it all goes together, there's some kind of matching aspect there. Okay, now we talk about facial expressions. And I'm going to pause this for a minute just to talk about facial expressions. If I'm shooting a female for the first time, I will have her open her mouth and stretch it as far as she can, and then close it just enough to breathe through it. And I'll get that shot because that's the shot I want. Now she's got her mouth totally closed. But while I've got her here, I'll talk about the eyes. Look at her eyes. The trailing eye is pretty much always going to look a little bit smaller than the forward eye. If you have somebody with two different size eyes, and it's not uncommon, make sure you have their small eye toward the camera. But the other point I wanted to make here was never let the eye fall off of the shot. You see her rear eye? I've got the corner of the eye and a little bit of skin beyond it. If you're going to take a shot at an angle like that, don't cut that eye. Don't take a third off it. Don't take a half off it. We want that whole eye in the shot. Here's another shot just like that. That's Summer again. Anyhow, I got to keep that eye in the picture. There's another one just like it. There's another one just like it. Here she's wearing some cool jewelry in both of these shots. She's got a necklace on. I told her, play with your earring and let me get a shot. And I like it. Here she's got some cool stuff on here. This is clothing. She bought that stuff for the shoot. The glove with the furry thing around the wrist, and that's part of the glove, and the hat and everything. That was a Christmas shoot we did, and it came out incredible. Now this is just showing again how I want to keep both eyes in a shot. And this is actually the same girl. I did 2 different shots of her and put them together in Photoshop. Okay, hands and feet. Ideas? Let me make this simple. For the most part, and there's always an exception, you do not want the back of the hand or the palm of the hand straight at the camera. Not good. Same with feet. You don't want their bottoms of their feet propped up in the air. Tops of feet are okay. So you got to find ways to pose without having to have those problems. Okay. Look at her hands. The question is, does it draw your eyes to those hands? The answer is no, it doesn't. Then you're probably okay. Now, this is not my favorite shot. Dawn Miller, if you know her, she's a realtor. She's got the back of her hand at me. And if I'd been paying attention, I would have had her turn her hands to the left so that the back of her hand was pointing upwards. Here we got a good shot. Back of the hand, feet, nothing objective. Your eye goes right to the subject. Here we've done something a little different. I funkied it up in Photoshop, but the hands, they're there for a purpose. And one hand continues the shape through her neck, and the other hand, it's not distracting. I wanted it to be there, though. Hand right on his chest. You're seeing the blade of the hand. That's a good thing. Callie here is doing her own thing. She's a professional model, so she did the hand thing, but I liked it. That's enough about hands. Okay, when you take a good picture, have some fun with it. Okay, this is a good picture. It's okay just like it is. But why wouldn't I try something a little different? Try some techniques in Photoshop. And you can see what I've done here. You can see there's all sorts of wording. I took it away from her face, but you can see there's a lot of wording on there. Here's a little different version of it. And sometimes they love these things. So I'll give them 2, 3, 4 versions of it. And there's one that's just plain old sepia, I guess, or maybe part sepia, part black and white. But they're all good shots. Do something with them. Have some fun in Photoshop. Now we're going to go to Photoshop. I'm going to do a stop share, and I just want to show you one thing. Where do I go with this? Okay, share screen, Photoshop, share. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, Photoshop. Okay, here it is. Okay, get that off the screen. I'm trying to get you off the screen. Okay, can you see it and can you hear me?
You're gonna have to share it again, Mike.
Okay, that's the wrong one anyhow. So I'm going to go back to share screen. I'm going to pick Photoshop and share.
There you
Got
go.
it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, this was an image I took in my studio. Well, there's a couple things wrong with it, and just to save you time, I don't like the way her leg is turned in. It should be turned out toward the camera. Also, I didn't shoot it wide enough. I didn't get all of her dress. So, what I had to do was, number one, was I had to isolate her. And I've done that right here. I put this on a black background, but I cut her out of the shot. I'm sure I've got a long ways to go. And I also extended her dress using Photoshop. Yeah, you can go to a lot of places on the internet and get free pieces of fabric in any color you want. So there she is. I just made her smaller. And then what I wanted to do was change the dress color. So I went from the white to what I really wanted, and that was the green. Okay, we keep going. There's the old ones. We don't want those anymore. Now I need a background. Ah, I like it. That's a cool background. I'm going to have to shrink her down because she's taking up everything, but I like that background. So I did some modifications on the coloring, and you can see what I did here on the carpet. First of all, it was too dark. It was too white. I wanted to change it. Then I added a gradation of black on the bottom to bring, of course, your eyes up more to the subject and a little more color work. And this is what I ended up with for the background. And then I added the shadowing. It doesn't make sense now, but it does when I put her on there, that there's shadowing around her. If you took the shadowing away, is that not noticeable? Well, yeah, of course it is. So you want to add some shadowing. Now, I've still got some problems. I've got her leg turned the wrong way. So what I did was I changed her leg. I changed the color of her arm. I darkened her leg. Hold on, I'm not done. I dimmed down the color of her leg. I added more hair, and if you look at her hair here, you can see what I did here. That was her natural look, and then I added this. A nice difference, if you ask me. And of course, you're not asking me, but anyhow, here I added a piece of hair behind her, and then I had to brighten it. So all these layers every one of them is a different layer in Photoshop. So what I'm doing is I'm creating this composite non-destructively, which means I can go back and change anything. Here I brightened her arm. I shouldn't have done that. Here I've toned it down. Here I'm adding the birds in. I thought, what the heck? Let's get some birds in there. Here I added a color lookup. You can see what happens. This is bringing my subject, the background, the birds all together. And in such a mild way that you don't even know I'm doing it, but it's making the picture look better. So I got carried away. I thought I'd add a little something else to it. Some smoke, some cracks. Here's where I turn the leg around. And I recolored the shoe from white to green. You can see there. And finally, this is what I ended up with. So fun in Photoshop. I could do this for hours.